Hunters, we're getting to you now. Let's go over your exotic armor tier list. If you're new to the series, I judge exotics on many factors, but this is mainly a power-based tier list. Starting with helms, it's Celestial Nighthawk, a returning Destiny 1 exotic, getting the Great PvE Gunslinger Exotic Award. The main perk reduces the amount of golden gun shots you get down to 1, but that 1 does significantly more damage than usual. This is good for one thing and one thing only: killing bosses or high health targets. That's really about it. It is insanely good for that purpose, and in certain activities, it is very valuable, although it is much more valuable in higher end content. However, Golden Gun in Destiny 2 has very high orb generation potential. It is possible to make 8 orbs of light in a single Golden Gun, so you have to weigh the huge chunk of damage versus generating a ton of orbs for your team. In raid content, orb generation is 2.5 times more valuable than non-raid content, but not having Golden Gun orb generation has never slowed down my team. We've very rarely been in situations where having a few more orbs would have been worth it. In PvP, well, yeah, going down to 1 shot, no matter how powerful the shot, is not going to be worth it. Destiny Item Manager ratings give this a 4.9 out of 5. I would say for PvE that is pretty darn accurate, but as an overall rating, that's a little too high. Foetracer is up next, getting the Solid Neutral PvP Exotic Award. The main perk marks a target and gives you bonus damage against low health targets that are marked. In terms of a damage bonus, the benefit starts around 30% of an enemy's health remaining and scales up to about 25% bonus damage at the very end of a health bar. So for moment-to-moment gameplay, you're not really going to see a huge benefit from using this, with the effect being near useless on low-tier enemies, getting slightly better as you fight harder enemies or enemies with larger health pools. But, with the exception of maybe Callus, there aren't too many times where you're going to see a long-term benefit on the damage portion of the perk per encounter, which to me drives down the value. You're not going to have a lot of uptime on the bonus damage in most cases. It'll probably get the most value in prestige activities, but even then, I'd rather have something with a little more team value for prestige mode. It is a passive ability, so you don't need to think about it, which is pretty nice. In PvP, the tracking really shines, allowing you to literally track people through walls for a short time. In 1v1 or even 1v2 situations, this gives you a massive advantage and is what I primarily use the helm for. Being able to anticipate people coming around corners and getting the first shot on them is really beneficial, especially in trials where things are a little more intense. Having the bonus damage could allow you to secure a kill 1 shot faster as well. Destiny Item Manager gives this a 4.7 out of 5, entirely too high as a general rating. Finally, Knucklehead Radar gets the Complete Redemption Award for going from a terrible Destiny 1 exotic to an actually solid Destiny 2 exotic. The perk keeps your radar up at all times. With the removal of Third Eye from the game as a perk, with the exception of only a couple of weapons, this perk effect can't be replicated in any other way. This now means it is much more valuable to have. If you have trouble managing your radar in PvP, especially in the competitive modes, then this is the exotic for you. I can't begin to tell you how many times I am still able to flank an enemy team without them knowing because they're either 1, oblivious, or more likely 2, they will keep their weapons aimed down sights at all times, which blocks your radar. This exotic gives you the extra information you need to prevent that from happening. In general PvP play, I think this has less value because of how quick play gameplay can flow, but it's still useful there as well. In PvE, there are very few times where you need the radar in such a way, and this does not boost your raw power, so I don't give it a lot of value there. Destiny Item Manager ratings have this at a 4.7 out of 5. That is a little bit high. Moving to gloves, we'll start with Mechaneer's Tricksleeves, getting the "they're good, but" award for being useful for one specific thing: increasing your reload speed and ready speed with sidearms. If I were to rate these on how effective they were as an exotic perk by themselves, then they're a 5 out of 5. They do exactly what they say they do and do it very well. The problem is that sidearms in PvE are not very powerful compared to other weapons and also have ammo issues. It's not really wise to use a double sidearm loadout, much less a single sidearm in PvE. In PvP, where they're a little more viable, if you're running with 2 sidearms, then yeah, this is the exotic you're going to use. If you're running with 1, then it can provide some moments where it can get you kills because you are faster. How often that actually happens, though, varies from game to game. If you play in a way that promotes heavy sidearm usage, then you're going to make these gloves work for you. Otherwise, you can stay away. Also, these gloves will be as good as sidearms are good at any given time. Destiny Item Manager ratings have these at a 2.5 out of 5. That's actually a decent rating. Then we have the other gloves, Young Ahamkara's Spine, also getting the somehow worse than Destiny 1 award. Your trip mine lasts 20 seconds longer than normal, and it marks any targets hit by it. In PvE, trip mine grenades are probably the weakest of the gunslinger grenades, and most of the time you're not really using them as a trap, you're just kind of throwing them out there for damage. Marking targets also doesn't really matter that much in PvE. This is supposed to be fulfilling an actual hunter fantasy, setting a trap, having a trigger, and then chasing down the enemy, which is cool, in theory. In practice, no. If trip mines were more subtle, then I could see this working out a little bit more, but it's a lot of effort to set everything up, and then having the payout is even more unlikely. And then compared to other exotics, I don't really know how much I'm feeling these gloves. On PC, it's even easier to get rid of trip mines as well. The amount of times I actually got the trip mine to trigger and then chased down my marked target for a kill in about an hour of playing was one time. If these gloves still had 2 trip mines, which is what I'm guessing Bungie will do to buff them in the future at some point, then they'll be a little bit better, but in their current form, I cannot recommend them. Destiny Item Manager has them at a 2.5 out of 5. Again, that is even a bit high. Moving to chest armor, Dragon's Shadow gets the alright neutral PvP exotic award. Your weapon handling speed and movement speed is increased for a short time after dodging. The buff actually lasts a pretty decent amount of time, 10 seconds, which gives good value considering your dodge is on a pretty short cooldown. It would be nice if the buff from this chest piece was actually shown in the UI somewhere. In PvE, I think there are far too many good exotics out there for me to really recommend this. Handling speed and movement speed don't really matter as much in PvE. It could help for escaping some bad situations, but that doesn't really do enough for me personally. The value of this exotic is going to be in PvP for more aggressive players. Handling and movement speed matter much more in PvP. But if you're not using your dodge a lot, if you're not using it effectively, or if you're not aggressive, then I don't know how much I can really recommend this. It is going to take a little bit getting used to in terms of figuring out how to fit this into your playstyle. I am terrible with using my dodge, so for me, I'm not using this simply because I won't be able to utilize its benefits as much as something else, nor do I really feel its effects that much, if at all. I know that I'm probably massively undervaluing this chess piece, but to me, I'm personally just not feeling it. Destiny Item Manager ratings have this at a 4.3 out of 5. I would say that it's maybe capable of reaching that if you utilize it very well, but for the average player, I don't think it's going to be as good. Lucky Raspberry is next, getting the, you know what, it's not actually that bad award for being a decent Arc Strider option. The main perk has your Arc Bolt chain farther, and if you hit something, you have a chance of getting the cooldown to refresh instantly. I am a believer in Arc Bolt grenades again, especially after playing on a Warlock with Arc Web in Trials of the Nine. People love stacking up, and tagging 2 or more people can really scatter them around. That extra chain length can really come in handy for those moments. In PvE, it's easy to tag a whole bunch of enemies with Arc Bolt, and so the odds are much greater that you're going to get it to proc again. Of the 3 grenades for Arc Strider, it's one of the better ones, plus it's on a shorter cooldown, so investing in it isn't a terrible idea. But PvP, specifically competitive modes where people tend to stack up, is where it'll really shine if you get it to proc for you. Being able to dish out damage like that is incredibly lethal, but it's all about taking chances. Are you willing to sometimes get a proc and then sometimes not? Is it worth that extra proc every so often versus a more consistent exotic? That is a very difficult question to answer. All that being said, Arc Strider is probably the worst of the 3 subclasses for PvP right now due to their super being kind of weak. So I need to take points off for the lack of Arc Strider love at the moment. Destiny Item Manager community ratings have it at a 4.1 out of 5, that's a little bit high. The last of the chest armor is Raiden Flux, getting the one of the best exotics in the game award. Quick attacks with your staff increase damage output and the duration of Arc Staff. I cannot praise this exotic enough for how good it is at ad clearing. I know it's an exotic that only affects your super, and historically, I'm not a huge fan of those. But Arc Staff plus this exotic is the most potent combination of exotic plus super in the game, maybe barring Orpheus Rig, and the best combination for ad clearing. The amount of time you get on an Arc Staff super is ridiculous. The amount of power and damage you get is ridiculous, and you can always count on Arc Staff to get rid of any ad problems that you might be having. It's great in the raid, it's great in the Nightfall, it's great in public events, it's great everywhere, except for maybe PvP. Well, it's more so that Arc Staff itself in PvP is not so great right now, but even then, there's not really much ad clear in PvP, although you do theoretically have enough time to kill a team and then rotate to their new spawn and then kill them again, and if you could make that happen on a consistent basis, then I would say, yeah, go for it. Destiny Item Manager ratings give this a 4.9 out of 5. It absolutely gets that rating for PvE, maybe not for PvP at the moment. Stompies are up first in the boot slot, getting the Replacement for Bones of Ao award, boosting your sprint speed and slide distance, and also improving your double jump. What does that actually mean, improving your double jump? Well, it means that your jump height on your double jump itself, not the base jump, is higher. It did not appear to work with triple jump though, and for me personally, that is a huge bummer because I like triple jump the most. These are the closest thing you're going to get to Bones of Ao in Destiny 2, and they're not bad. Slide distance has a little bit of value in PvP, but these are not the kind of exotic you're going to wear because they're boosting your power. You're going to wear these because they make your movement feel good or different. The sprint speed, again, same as all the other exotics. It's, to me, not very impressive, but with other movement enhancing effects, can be somewhat impactful. These are essentially a spin-off of a do-a-thing exotic. They just enhance your non-damage abilities, and if you like that, then great. But if you don't, that's okay too. For me, I like triple jump the most, and these don't really seem to affect triple jump, so I'm not really wearing them too much. In PvE, they do not boost your damage capabilities outright, so if we're just talking about power, they're going to get a low rating, but it's sort of hard to judge these on that alone. Destiny Item Manager ratings have these at a 4.7 out of 5, again, a little bit high. Orpheus Rig gets the fantastic Night Stalker PvE Exotic Award, where you get bonus super energy for every target hit by your Shadow Shot. This is the Skull of Dire Ahamkara for hunters, where even though it's an ability that only affects your super, it affects it in a way where you can get it back more rapidly the better you are with it. There are a lot of instances where Shadow Shot is very valuable. Public events, strikes, the raid. This boosts your ability to continue tethering over and over, and for me is basically the only option for Night Stalker in PvE, assuming you're using the top block of perks in Night Stalker. It is absolutely fantastic for PvE, rivaling Raiden Flux in terms of value. Even enemies that walk into your tether while it is on the ground produce super energy, so it's quite possible to clear a wave of ads, have the tether still be on the ground, and then get another wave of ads to come in and get you your super if you didn't get it on your first tether. In PvP, this does also have some value, but much like the other super-only exotics, you need to be really good with hitting your shadow shots. Not only that, but hitting a lot of people with them. It's somewhat unlikely to make a big difference in your PvP experience. Destiny Item Manager ratings have this at a 5.0 out of 5. I think it absolutely deserves that rating in PvE, but for PvP, no. Finally, we come to Lucky Pants, getting the "they seem okay" award. Hand cannon ready speed and hand cannon initial accuracy are improved. Well, the ready speed is something I think everyone can understand. Being able to have your gun ready much faster than someone else can be a very situationally nice bonus to have. But what is initial accuracy in this case? Well, take a look at our crosshair here. When we swap to our hand cannon, you can see it expand out after the short buff expires when you swap to a hand cannon. This exotic is designed to give you a very fast and accurate shot after swapping to a hand cannon, and I would say the main value of the perk is more with the ready speed and less so the initial accuracy. Being able to swap to a different weapon and having a fast shot is a valuable effect. It's just that you need to actually utilize that effect frequently in order to get the most out of this particular exotic. I don't think people are swapping back and forth too much intentionally. It's more for those in case I run out of ammo moments. But even then, in an extended play session using Lucky Pants, I wasn't really getting too much out of it. Not to mention that hand cannons in general on console are kind of in an spot right now. Console is pretty dominated by auto rifles. On PC, guns are already pretty accurate, so you're mainly going to be using this exotic, again, for the swap speed, which is only coming in handy in very specific engagements. Destiny Item Manager ratings have these at a 3.7 out of 5. That is way overvalued. And that is going to conclude the exotic armor tier list for all classes for November 2017. I will be updating these lists as things get buffed and nerfed. We'll probably take a look at weapons in some capacity somewhat soon. If you enjoyed this video, a positive rating is appreciated. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.